So thanks to the cafe for opening up their hearts and their home, literally, to the show. And I want to tell you a little bit about the show. For those of you, we have a lot of repeat customers who know who we are and who support us. But storytelling is kind of a difficult label to use because it can apply to everything. But this is modeled after the storytelling show, The Moth, that a lot of you may have heard on radio and everywhere else. So it's where you tell true stories from your own life that happened to you. And you tell them in an engaging way, and you try and touch people, and you try and expand their boundaries so that they can live your life for you. Or not for you, but for a few minutes, walk alongside you in your memories. The reason, so I am the person who created the show, and I was motivated really by a need to build community by first learning who the community is. My name is Chandreyee Lahiri. By profession, I work for the Department of Conservation and Recreation, the DCR. I make maps and I wrangle data for a living. It's got nothing to do with what I do in my spare time. I write fiction, I do storytelling, I've been on some storytelling shows, I've done a lot of coaching, so I'm very sneaky. I pull stories out of people, sometimes well, sometimes not so well, but generally I pull something out. And so I decided I wanted to do that for my city so that we can start learning who lives in the city, what are their lives, right? We're not all the same. How boring would this world be if we were? We're not all the same, we're different, and there's lots of divisions in the society. But if we start learning a little bit more about what other people's lives are like, maybe we would just feel a little more united in spite of the division. So that's what I'm going for here. The big Waltham show, the We Are Waltham show, W-A-W, or WoW for short, because I'm humble that way, happens at the Charles River Museum down the road twice a year. But I had this idea for having a mini We Are Waltham show, a WaW, so to say. Credits to my friend Amy Sporing for coming up with that term. And that is, so we're going to have 4 people for you today, 4 tellers for you today, who have all been on the big show before, so they're alum. They kind of know their way around storytelling, and they're going to tell us 4 stories today. We're going to have 2 tellers going up, then we're going to have a little musical break, another 2 tellers, another little musical break, and I would really like you, as you listen to them, to think about stories that are floating in your head. Maybe one of these stories will remind you of a similar memory, or an opposite memory. And in the musical breaks or afterwards, pen down some thoughts on those index cards over there, pop them in that basket, and the whole second half, or maybe last 1/3 of the show, I'm going to rifle through those cards, I'm going to read through them, and I'm going to pick some, maybe I'll pick all, to share. And either the tellers will read them out loud, or I will call out your name, and if you would like to come up to the mic and read out your card, you have a few minutes to do so. So we're going to really try and make this into an attractive community event. A reminder about the prompts for when you're writing to them. This is not fiction. This is not poetry. It's a real memory. It's something that happened to you. There's no hate. There's no violence, as you all can guess. We're here to build community. And the last thing is that when I do We Are Waltham shows, it's about creating a safe space and creating community. So I'd like us all to open our hearts, open our minds, be open to whatever experience somebody is telling us, and really be there and bear witness. Today's stories are going to be easier than the big show. We often have some difficult truths that we have to listen to. But today's, I think, going to be sheer fun. I mean, those are sheer fun too. Oh my goodness, I'm dissing my own show. Please scratch that. Please redact that. So with that, enough of me. We're going to go right into our first teller, who is Dennis Montgomery. And this is the bio that he wanted me to share. Dennis is a software engineer and an immigrant from Canada, and is still mourning the Bruins' early playoffs exit this year. Moment of silence, people. He has lived here in Waltham for 18 years with his wife and daughter, who are here to support him today. And as an enthusiastic local business supporter, he holds the distinction of being the first customer ever at this coffee shop. All right, Dennis. And you can watch his story on the big, not the wee, show on the website. He was in show 2, and you can find it by going to wearewaltham.com. Dennis, over to you.
I wanted to think the heron was watching me. I was watching it. Oh, sorry. Sorry again. I wanted to think the heron was watching me. I was watching it. I was sitting on a park bench. There's a spot across the river from the Shaws on River Street, if you know it. There's a footbridge that goes across behind the parking lot, and just slightly downstream from there is an old mill dam that's broken down, and it creates this lovely little waterfall. And there are a couple of park benches right there. You can sit and watch, and that's where I was that day. I love the whole river walk, really. It's my zen place. I like to go down there. I'll dodge the bicyclists and the goose poop, and I'll just let my mind drift with the water. I'm particularly prone to nostalgia, so when my mind wanders, often it will take me to places like that spot in particular when my daughter was a newborn baby. I'd come home for work, I'd scoop her up into the stroller, I'd go for a walk down the river, and I'd show her all of the plants and leaves and birds. And there was a pier there. We'd look for turtles. We could call it Turtle Pier. Well, I called it that. She didn't talk. Later in life, we had a lot of family walks there. We taught her how to ride her bike there. She and the dog took a wade into the water, and as much as we loved that dirty water, we had to bathe them both very well. We used to play poo sticks at the bridge. That's from Winnie the Pooh, the old books, where you would drop sticks into the water from the bridge, and then you'd race to the other side and see who was the first to make it there. The pandemic hit, and much later, and life changed, so I'm now working from home, and it's easier to get down to the river, although strangely I don't do it as much. But it's more of a solo thing. But I head down there after work to unwind, and last fall, I started seeing this heron very frequently. Frequently enough that I kind of made friends with him. At least, I like to think so. I started coming up with names for him. Darren, the heron, if it's a boy. Or maybe Sharon if it's a girl, but definitely not Karen, because, let's face it, the DCR would have been called on me by now. Aaron goes either way. So Aaron the heron it is. I have another friend. It's a muskrat. Elon. So, this particular day, it was a crisp autumn day, and it was sunny, and the leaves were gold and yellow and red, all shimmering on the water. I was sitting there communing with Aaron, watching the waterfall, and that day my mind was on, I was trying to think of a way to come up with a science lesson, because we were thinking of homeschooling our daughter at the time, and I was trying to think how to relate science. So, watching the water just tumbling over the rocks, I started to think about gravity, as one does. Now, gravity's a thing that I never really understood. I went to college, I took a lot of physics classes, and it was a long time ago, I've forgotten most of it, but what I remember is there's an attractive force between every two objects in existence, and you can compute it by the product of the masses of the two objects divided by the square of the distance between them. There's constant, Newton's constant, I think it's called, big G. And as you can imagine, that number, that force, is very large if they're very large objects and close together, and it's very small if they're not. Now the Earth pulls us all towards it with a force that we call weight. The Earth itself pulls me with 200-something pounds. This microphone is attracted to my face. Not very much. I can't feel it. Every one of us is pulling towards each other. You can't feel it, but it's happening. And if you're closer together, it's even more. God like community. So this also works for distance. The larger object you've got, the more the force is. So the planet that we're on pulls the Earth, the moon into its orbit. The moon pulls back with tides. The sun pulls the Earth into orbit. Now, the cool thing is, even very, very far away objects are pulling on us. A star in the Andromeda Galaxy, 2.5 million light years away, is pulling on us with a force that is extremely small, so small that by those formulas, you can't even conceive of that force. And it's so small, there's no way you'd ever feel it. But it's not zero. It exists. And it's real. And the other cool thing about it is that because of the distance, it takes time to get to us. You think about the light from the sun takes 8 minutes to get to Earth. Well, gravity from that star in Andromeda takes 2.5 million years to get to us. So that force that you're feeling, but actually not feeling, is actually a force from a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And the really neat thing about that is the past, in a real but completely intangible and immeasurable way, is literally pulling on your heartstrings. And that explains the nostalgia, so I don't feel so guilty about that. Of course, once I snapped out of that whole mental meandering, I looked up and Aaron was actually a lot closer to me. So I took a picture of him. It's on my phone. And I walked home, and then several months later, I heard from Chandreyee that she was doing this show tonight, and I went to meet her to talk about the story. And on the way, I had to cross that footbridge again. And sure enough, there was Aaron, perched on the railing. And I thought, well, I have to get there. So I'm just going to take my camera and I'm going to record what happens on the way across. Sure enough, as I approached, Aaron didn't move. And I got closer and closer. He or she was just looking at me until I got just close enough that Aaron just took to wing, flew off. I recorded the whole thing, and I swear, I felt the pull. Thank you. Absolutely.
I'll put it on the website. He's got this unbelievable video. Go check out the website in a few weeks. It'll be there.
Hello everyone, my name is Gabby. Great to see all you folks here tonight. I'm introducing our second storyteller. Her name is Jessica Lucci. Jessica is a poet and steampunk fantasy author who writes about modern issues while maintaining historic integrity. She makes her home in Waltham with her time-traveling budgie named Lamar. You should visit her at tomorrow's Steampunk Festival right here in our great city and maybe buy some of her great books. Jessie was also one of the original cast of Storytelling of We Are Waltham, who shared her stories at a Riverfest in 2021 before this show was an official thing. Her story is not fully on the website yet, but it will be. Hope you enjoy.
Hello, everybody. So, I'm at the grocery store on Trapello Road and Lexington Street. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, so that's where I go grocery shopping. I have everything organized. I know my coupons, or I know which aisle to go to by my coupon book. I am a professional shopper. Okay, so this particular night I was going, well, it was just after the pandemic, which was a long, lonely time for a lot of people, especially me, where I'm a writer and I'm talking to a budgie all day who's my best friend. So, a budgie is a parakeet, by the way, for those of you who do not know. So, I'm lonely. I got bird friends, and I need to find some new friends. I need a new social circle. So we're coming out of the pandemic, and I talk to these women, and they invite me to come over for a get-together. And my job is to bring dessert. So I'm like, okay, I'm on this. Then I'm like, wait a minute, I can't actually bake. So I'm like, well, I could get one of those Pillsbury containers of cookies and just put it in, but scrape off the doughboy on the top so nobody knows it was not me that made them, or I don't know. So I go to the Star Market, and now I've been thinking about this so much that I'm just walking around their bakery section, which I highly recommend is an excellent bakery section, but I'm just meandering around thinking, what do I get? What dessert is impressive? Because I gotta impress these women. I want friends. It's been a long time. So, I gotta make friends. How do I do it? With cake and cookies, obviously. So, I find this thing of Italian cookies. It's a tower high. It's really amazing looking. But then I'm like, no, then they'll have to open up the cookies. And what if they don't like them? Like, just because they're my favorite doesn't mean it's theirs. Then I'm like, wow, there's this coffee cake, but that's kind of more like breakfasty, and this is like mid-afternoony mimosa time. So, I'm like, then I saw it. Behind the bakery counter was this tiramisu. I'm like, that's what's going to this party. This is going to impress these people, and they're going to want to be my best friend forever. So, there, I finally make my decision. Then I realize, okay, I'm usually early to things, but I'm cutting it close. So I go to the aisle number 3, the register number 3. It's actually the first one, even though it's number 3. I don't know what to tell you people. So I'm there in line, and there's only one person ahead of me. I'm like, this is great. I don't have to worry about time. I have the perfect dessert. These people are gonna like me. I can't ask for anything more from my life. And so I'm waiting. And there's this gentleman in front of me with a young boy who's probably about 10 years old. And this guy, I don't know if he's the father or the uncle or the mean grandpa. I don't know who he is or who he thinks he is talking to this kid like that. Bossing him around, telling him, hurry up, get that up here. And it's not just like a little box of cotton swabs he wants this kid to get up there. He wants like the whole jug of water. He wants the whole pack of 18 bottles of water up there. I'm like, this poor kid's 10 years old. You should be buying a candy bar. You should be picking out which one of the two he wants to for the price of one. That's what he should be doing, not putting up all this stuff in the conveyor belt. And then I'm like, this is taking forever. And in my head, I'm just raging, and then I'm thinking, what if the tiramisu falls down in the car? This is going to be okay. It's going to work out. But then this guy is still bossing this little kid around. And I'm like, this guy is a real jerk. And not only that, all the food is junk food. So, this guy can't even provide fruit and vegetables for this kid. It's all Twinkies and food I don't even know what it is. I've never seen these things before. Boxes and wrappers and shiny things, and they're probably really delicious, but not as good as my tiramisu. So, finally, I see there's an end in sight. The conveyor belt is moving down. The kid is on the other side. And now it's time for them to bag the groceries. Okay, apparently coming out of a pandemic, this man has not been to a grocery store in 3 years and does not realize that we now bring our own or pay 10 cents plus a 1 cent tax for paper bags because we no longer have plastic. And apparently this guy never knew that before. So now he gets to see. The cashiers is like, no, wait, you're going to have plastic, the kind that you return every week to us. You can have the paper, which I highly recommend at 11 cents, or you can get the jumbo bag. And how much is a jumbo bag, the guy asks? And I'm like, I will pay for your paper bag, please just go. And so, I'm so frustrated. Now I realize I'm going to be just on time if I can find this place at this fancy house I'm sure that these wonderful women have. And so, finally, the cash exchange goes through. They leave. The man turns and looks at me and says, how much does that cost? And I'm like, my tiramisu here? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, who's this guy asking me how much things cost? I'm like, mind your own business. But no, I didn't. I said, oh, it's $20. And here I am thinking he's gonna go and grab one. I'm like, that's all I need right now. And he goes, $20? All right, I'll pay for it. Put it on my card. And I'm like, thank you.
Thank you, both of our tellers, Dennis and Jesse. Should we give it another round? Waltham flavor. Next time you go to Shaw's aisle 3, check out counter 3.